I remember those days.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
feel like they're yesterday, huh?
dude, I'll tell you this much. The longer you're alive, the quicker life goes. You kind of look back and you're like, dang, that was 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's kind of,
Yeah.
especially when you do something you love, you know what I mean? Like when you're riding, you ride like your whole life, and then you look back the last 10 years and you're like, you still feel like it just went by so fast because you were having so much fun riding. You know what I mean? It wasn't miserable or anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
How many years have you been riding?
I started, well, like I kind of feel like I always rode. It was around the neighborhood, like trying wheelies and jumping curbs and stuff. But like, I think I officially rode a quarter pipe when I was 11, which would have been well, what is this, 2020, and I'm 50. So what would have 11 is 69, 79, been around 1980, 81, I think. Um, and then after that, I built a quarter, a 6 foot quarter. And like anyone listening, man, check it out. Like back in the day, you could buy, like it was so new that you could buy plans, like ramp plans. And so the transitions, before we learned how to cut them out of like a transition, they were 2x4s. So like BMX Action at the time, this magazine had these ramp plans. Anyways, I'm rambling, but it's bringing back all these memories that like I built my own quarter in, yeah, around 81,
Oh,
82. Yeah, yeah, something like that.
was
So
that in Kansas City? You were living in Kansas City, right? That's where you grew up?
yeah, yeah, it was different back then, man. It was like crazy, you know. Yeah, I grew up in Kansas City. My best friend was Dennis McCoy, so I grew up with Dennis. Or we became best friends over the years, you know. I met him. We were just young, and yeah. You want to hear the story how I met Dennis?
Yeah, dude, of course.
Okay, check it out. I just moved to the neighborhood, and I'd been riding, but like I was also kind of like into breakdancing because it was pretty popular back then. So I like I had like I was just into that, you know what I mean, at the time. And I went up to the mall and went to the art store, and we came outside, and I didn't know anybody in the neighborhood, and there was Dennis with a bunch of dudes around with a hat out getting money doing tricks, and there was a big crowd, and I was like, who are these people? Who is this dude? And that's when I officially met Dennis and linked up with his, you know, the crew, like the BMX Brigade crew, and they had already had it, like they were already rocking, man. They already had like a bunch of dudes that rode. So like, imagine if you're a young kid and you move in a neighborhood and you're riding and you build a quarter pipe, you still don't know anyone, and you're just riding by yourself, and then you run across 15 dudes that are all bros, and you're like, what? I'm gonna be part of this. So that's how we met. He was
Is
doing
that
grass.
like,
He was doing grasshoppers, I remember, and they that was crazy. It was rad. Seems like yesterday. It really does.
so when did you start competing? What year, do you know roughly?
I do. First contest I went to was 1985, and that was an AFA contest because AFA, they used to have like the best. You know, AFA was like what the X Games is, or what, like, you know, the King of Vert used to be, or the King of Street, or whatever. AFA was American Freestyle Association. That was like where all the pros went, the big contest. So my very first contest was 1985, Tulsa, Oklahoma, AFA. I was 15, I think, something like that. So, yeah, man, it's crazy. Lots changed. I mean, back then, Flatland was the most popular thing. You know what I mean? Like Flatland, ramp was almost like a secondary thing. You know, like, oh yeah, now we got ramp. But at times, like Flatland, it was Flatland was just so the most progressive and the most what riders did. You know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you moved out to Cali in 97, correct?
Yeah. Oh, you do your homework, bro. I like your
Always, dude.
I like your style. Yeah, man. I moved out, but I'd been touring, bro. So like, I started doing shows in '85, or maybe a little earlier, '84. So we would do local shows, boat shows, car shows, this, that, whatever. And so, you know, I'd already been doing shows and touring and stuff. So then when I moved to Cali, it was like I waited probably longer than I wanted to, but I just didn't have the money to do it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
busting tables didn't pay that much.
And you were paying your way to contests yourself in the beginning, right? Busting tables and then taking that money and traveling to all those AFA comps, right?
I was, well, at the time, like in the AFA '85, and then I didn't compete again until '88.
Oh
So I
well.
competed in '85, and then I didn't compete anymore uh, for a number of reasons. I got hurt, and then I didn't want, and then my parents tore my ramp down. My mom did. She was freaked out because I'd ripped my chin down and my nose and got up playing like air guitar to
Was
press.
that when you clipped the loading dock? You came up short in St.
No,
Louis on a gap?
that's a different one. Yeah,
Okay,
that
I got you.
was 7. So like I didn't compete again until 88, but check it out. I graduated. Here's what happened. Out of high school, about my senior year, I would say I didn't ride much. I got hurt, and they tore my ramp down, and that's what I love to do. And I was angry, and I got in a lot of trouble, and you know what I mean. I was going down the wrong road. Okay, and then what happened was I graduated high school, and my mom's like, "What do you want for graduation?" We didn't have much money, and she wanted to buy me like a car for a few $100 for real, like just a beater. And I was like, "Yo, like, can I get a bike?" And she bought me the '87 Haro Complete Master for my graduation, and
Oh
that's when I
wow.
started. Yeah, dude, and that's when I started riding again because I graduated in '87, and then from that point on, I didn't look back. I said, I'm not quitting again. You know what I mean? Like, let's go. And so then I started. So then once I got a job, I'm thinking here, and if I'm rambling, just cut me off. But I got a job right when I got out of high school, and it was at Olive Garden, and I bust tables, and then I started setting goals right away. And so I went right back into hanging out with Dennis, and then he had became friends with Hoffman, and then I met Matt, and then what I did was I would work to go to contests, pay bike parts, and then come back home and work, and then have my pay way to contests. So like nobody paid my way. My mom worked in a factory, and like we didn't have any money. Like some kids are born into this sport, wealthy and supportive parents, and I wasn't like that for me. You know what I mean?
When did it
So it was
really
definitely
all
different. I definitely earned all of my shit, and all that time getting hurt and paying your own hospital bills. I got stories for days. I'm glad that you were doing this because it's reminding me, like, it's tapping into like stuff that like I haven't talked about in a long time.
No,
So
it's dope, dude. I love it. Keep talking, you're good.
yeah. I mean, well, then once I started competing in '88, that was still the AFA. So like then I followed the series in the AFA in 1988. In 1987, though, after I graduated, I went on tour with Haro, not as a rider, as Dennis's buddy. I said, Dennis, can I come out with you just to hang out? And it was Dennis McCoy, Rick Molinterno, and Joe Gratola, or maybe Joe Johnson. And then they met up with Blyther, Nori, and Wilkerson.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, bro. So they intersected a tour. And it was like, and so I was 17, and these people, even though I grew up with Dennis and I knew the level of what Dennis had gotten to be, and we got to understand, in 1985, he was the best. He was like, Dennis was the first dude sponsored outside of California. For anybody listening, everyone was from California that was sponsored. Anyways, he drove out to Venice, kicked everybody's ass. They're like, who's this dude? He's on Haro Full Factory now. He's getting paid. That's your best bro. It's 1985. You're like, what the hell? Right? So you see this. So Dennis was always my bro. Like he was always my friend. I didn't look at him like the dude on my wall, like Brian Blyther.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just different. Doesn't mean I didn't respect him or anything. But what I'm trying to get to is when I saw Blyther and Wilkerson in person, I was like freaked out. I was like, oh shit. Oh my God. Like it was like that kid moment, that kid feeling of like that person that you really looked up to. But even though I looked up to Dennis, Dennis was like he was my best bro. So it was just different. It was different. It was a different relationship. So anyways, in '87, I went on that tour with those guys, and it was a rad experience. And then I told myself that's what I'm going to do with my life, is be a bike rider. And I owe a lot of it to Dennis, actually, having him around, being in him in my life, and seeing what was possible and what he was achieving really inspired me. So I owe a lot to him for sure. Yeah, man.
When did you really get into riding vert? I knew you were competing for a long time in vert, and you were doing the Huck Jam tour. When did vert become a big thing in your life?
Well, it kind of progressively happened. I mean, because we had the 6-foot quarters, and then we had the 8-foot quarters, and then once again, it was like I was always the dude down to ride. Okay, I was always the dude that was down to help build, help ride. I might not have had any money to contribute, but I was down to like whatever I could do. I'm down. I just want to ride. And so when the vert happened, it was more like Dennis built a vert ramp in his backyard. He had a quarter pipe, and I had a quarter pipe of mine, but he went to build a vert ramp. This is before vert was really that popular. It wasn't pushed at the AFA contests. This is before the King of Vert, when Wilkerson did the King of Vert contest. So it was kind of like when vert got more popular for me, outside of just hitting quarters, because hitting quarters is different than riding vert. Uh, I'd say that would probably be like, even though I was competing in '88, the series of AFA, riding the quarter pipes and doing whatever, it wasn't until '89 to where I really started riding vert a lot and started following the King of Vert series because AFA went away, which was actually at the time devastating. But now looking back, it was probably a transition into vert riding at least. Um, and so I'd say 89 about, and so that's when I started following the series with the King of Vert like I did the AFA. So I'd go back home and bust tables, save up my money, whatever it took to get there, whatever floor I slept on, however I got there, just to get to the contest, to be in that moment, and then go back to the grind of living in my mom's basement and all that. It's crazy. I didn't even have a car at the time, bro. I rode my bike to work. And then after work, I'd go ride and meet everybody to go riding. Riding's been in my blood. Like, that's all I wanted to do.
Have
Uh,
you been riding a lot lately?
I have. I have. Anyone that follows me on Instagram, or if you don't, check it out. It's Rick Thorne. Um, Mike asked me, says, how old do your balls look? Uh, Not as old as your face. Just throw it out there, Roofy.
Yeah, I noticed you've been riding vert actually at Vans a little bit, correct? They put that new ramp.
I did. Well, last year, like they took it down because they moved it. Actually, they moved it to the skate park. And then last year, I was actually at Warped Tour, and I had bro. It sucks. Okay, like vert riding to me is like one of those things where if you ride, you'll learn, your stuff starts to come back. Because we did so many shows for the years, Sprocket Jockey show. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. And so when Vans built this ramp, it wasn't that big, so it was easy to ride, and so it was easy to get back into vert riding like an 11-foot ramp compared to a 13. And so I was going down there, and then Vans says, "Hey man, we got all these opportunities coming up for some demos, and also we got the Warped Tour. Warped Tour is coming up, and we obviously want you to be there because I've done a lot of the Warped Tours. So last year, dude, last July, I clipped on an X up. I swear to this day, I felt like the wall moved, but I clipped. And what happened is I ended up breaking 7 ribs, a clavicle, fractured my T2 vertebrae. And I went a whole day with 2 liters of blood in one lung. I had
Oh
no idea.
wow.
I had no idea. I thought I just broke a rib or a couple ribs. It's like, whatever. And, they eventually forced me to go to the hospital because I couldn't breathe very well, and I ended up being in the hospital for 12 days. And I was like, damn, dude, like, just right when I was getting my vert, back on, you know what I mean? But like, vert's one of those things where you ride it a lot, but there's not a lot of opportunities for it unless you're touring and shows. But you don't ride it just for the opportunity. I'm just saying that like, you get inspired and you set goals because okay, I got a show coming up. I want to do good in this show. You know what I mean? So what I learned by going back and riding vert is that like I was able to relearn a lot of stuff that I've been doing for years, and it really helped my confidence. So I'm gonna ride more vert as well. You're riding the pools too. We ride a
I
lot of
noticed that.
yeah. And if every now and then you're lucky if you find like a really good pool, but most of the time if all you do is ride pools and nothing else, you might lose a lot of tricks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. The transitions and stuff are a lot different.
Well, because you can't do all those tricks you could do on a vert ramp, you can in every pool you hit. You're lucky to get like 2 feet out of the top with the tabletop. And so if you just spend all your time doing tabletops, you start to lose your cans, and your look backs, and your turn downs, and all your tricks. So it's good to be well balanced. And that's all. If I'm jumping all over this interview, I don't mean to. It's just how I am.
No,
I
you're good.
like to be a rider is to be well balanced. Is to not say, well, we ride this and we don't ride that, or we don't. It's like, well, just try it all. And if you don't ride dirt, it's okay. Just do what you do ride. Or if you ride vert, that's cool. Ride what you're gonna. It's all love. It's all about riding. You know what I mean? And for me, I've always felt like to be well rounded as a rider wasn't anything more than just me challenging myself. I competed flatland for 10 years, bro. I
Oh
mean,
wow.
we used to show up at contests, bro. We compete flatland at the BS contest. We compete flatland the first day, park the second day, vert the third day. That was like just what pros did. They shot for the overall title. Used to mean something. It used to be like, oh well, this is the overall pro. I got a plaque from 1988 AFA. Damn, if I have it handy, I'd show it to you. Let me think where it's at. 1988 AFA. overall expert.